Enough with the doom and gloom, John. There are no black pills around here, guys. We are not just simply going to sit around and just mope about the circumstances. We're actually men of action. Actually, no, we are men of action. Me and my guys in the Liminal Order, we're men of action. We are not sitting around just moping about this stuff. It's good to talk about. It's great to understand the context. It's important so that everybody knows what we're living through. But the truth is like we have to take action and do something. So, in your mind, John, let's start with culturally speaking. Like, what can we do to start pushing back? What can we do to start improving our own lives? What can we do as a positive step to move forward in this environment so that we can protect ourselves, we can protect our families, we can protect our communities, and hopefully we can protect the nation, because that's what we want to do. That's what men of action want to do. You know, we build America in times of peace, defend her in times of war, and we want to build this thing right now. So what do you see, John? Like, let's give people some hope here. You know, how do we move forward? What do we do? We got a number of things we can talk about, but what's the first thing that comes to mind?
One thing that's really high on my priority list is get behind a kind of a digital rights. Okay, so we have this kind of digital personhood, and right now it has no rights. The rights you have offline don't apply to when you get online. You don't have any rights of access or any kind of rights of speech. You know, you don't have any ownership of any of the data that you produce, you know, or that's being collected on you. Basically, you're a serf. You're nothing. You have no consideration. And so what we can do is get behind a rights movement that, you know, defines what, you know, freedom of speech is and what your rights of access are, and your responsibilities associated with that attached to your identity. So at least you have a home there. So you can't be unpersoned and disconnected from all the services that are out there. You know, unless you have to really do incredibly horrific stuff to fall outside of, you know, to have that happen, but not this willy-nilly stuff that's, you know, unpersoning people right now.
So when you say a digital bill of rights,
right?
This is a way to define the rights that you have in the new information space. You know, we defined rights in the 1700s for ourselves, agrarian society, you know, the Wild West, wide open spaces, homesteaders everywhere, explorers, adventurers, and stuff. And that was the way that the environment in which our rights were defined at that time. We now need to define our digital rights because we exist in a new space. Right. We exist in a new space that's online, where you have an avatar, you have a representation of yourself that's online, that produces value through data. Right. The data that we produce when you use a free service, everybody knows this by now, but Google or Facebook or Gmail or whatever it is, you are the product, right? You're selling your personal data to these companies in exchange for ease of access to information. Right. And we can get into how you capture that in a minute. But the question that I always have, John, when we talk about this is, it sounds great on paper, man. Right. Like, I get it. I want it. But like, the tools by which we have to implement this is like the gatekeepers. Like, they're the ones that are they're holding us out already. How do we get a digital bill of rights enacted when the government is in alliance with the corporations that believe that they're on a moral crusade and have a higher authority?
Right. Well, I mean, it's always been a race, and this is what I've been writing about for years. You know, can we stabilize the system before it locks down and goes into kind of this long night scenario? I think there's still some play in the political environment if maybe the Republicans and Democrats that are willing to join behind a rights initiative. There are people on the progressive left that are going to be wiped out because they're pushing taxes and that kind of stuff, and they're not going to be kind of considered fully equal to the establishment players. And getting rights is something I think we can get a broad-based kind of coalition going. You know, it could be the kind of thing that, you know, provides a kind of way of reformatting the Republican Party. Because I mean, unless there's rights online, unless you have digital rights, there's no Republican Party. It doesn't exist. It's all of this bunch of individuals that are going to be wiped out if they start to gain any kind of prominence. So you have to have those rights, and I think that can actually, I think that has legs, and I think that could actually be foisted upon the onto the networks, and it would be something that other countries, once you do that, will copy. If it's clean, if it's simple, if we could make it an internet standard, like HTML is a kind of an internet standard that's like never changing. It has a few changes every once in a while, but it's pretty much static. The protocol is pretty much static. It hasn't really changed much. It takes forever to change. The same thing here is if we can make these rights a basic building block of services, then things can change, not just for us, but we can give it as a gift to the world. And I think that's going to be a good thing. And there's ways of doing that. It's just like, but I think it has to probably go through the political process in order to make it happen.
I wish I was as optimistic about that. I mean, one of the big issues is nobody on Congress has any idea what's really happening with technology.
Right.
You can just see it in the questions. You can see it in the responses to the answers in the congressional hearings. You can see it in the failure to act. They had 4 years. They had 2 years even where they had the House, or they had they had power, they had control, they could get things done, but they didn't. They didn't because people don't really understand. It reminds me of my old days in finance when you knew that the way to make money was to operate in an asset space where like your bosses didn't know anything about it. And you could just because products evolve so quickly, so you're operating in your asset space, you can get away with murder because nobody even knows what you're doing. And I feel like the corporations are acting in that space right now where the people just don't know, and the citizens certainly don't know. There's only a handful of us that actually do know and are sounding the alarm on it. I wish I could see this happening. I don't, unfortunately, see the political will for it. But I think one thing you said is absolutely right. Like, this should be the central plank of the GOP, like, period, full stop.
Right.
Like, this is like probably the most important thing that they could do. Even more important than immigration, even more important than the deficit, even more important than, I hate to say it, it might be even more important than ending our expansionary wars and the empire and stuff. Getting this issue defined and enshrined is that important, because if we don't, as you said, we're going to be serfs. We're serfs on the Lord's land, the information space, with no rights and no ability to grow, to invest. I'm putting up YouTube videos and building a channel here, knowing it's probably futile, right? Knowing that one day it's all going to go away. So, guys, if you're listening, go to Liminal Order, sign up for the list. Go to jackmurphylive.com, sign up for the list there. Get in contact with me in every which way possible, because one day this is going to go, and we know that. But for most people, investing in a circumstance in which you don't have the rights, you don't own your data, you're a serf. That it's a uncertainty. Yeah, uncertainty is the kryptonite to investment, and so it is certainly something that we need to do. I don't have too much hope that it is going to happen. So let's forget about that for 1 second. Like, these grand ideas, the solution that could solve all the problems. What do we do in the meantime? Because people give me crap. Try not to swear on the channel anymore. People are giving me crap because, I was like against the January 6th thing. I was very disappointed and upset that happened. I was against QAnon. I was against that kind of action. People are, well, what are you going to do? You just talk. All you do is talk. Da, 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 da. Absolutely not, guys. There's got to be a whole portfolio of things that we do. One of them is a digital Bill of Rights. We're going to talk about a couple of other things too. But in that same portfolio is what can we do on an individual and a community basis, right? Like, we have to build anyway, even if we get the digital Bill of Rights. If we don't, even if the conflict gets worse or it doesn't, we still need to build. Have you been giving any thought to that? I think I saw in the workspace on your Patreon for next month's issue. I think you made a pretty clear statement about that. Where are you right now on community and space and sovereignty in this environment?
Oh well, at the very micro level, at the individual level, definitely you have to build communities, build online spaces that are more resilient than just having an account on the big services. I mean, granted, we have to fight for a place on the big services, permanent place, permanent access, because that's where the world is, right? You can't just totally withdraw from it, but you can hedge yourself and protect yourself by connecting with communities that have an online and offline presence.